Okay, so we are back. JD, how are you today?
Man, all good, all good.
I love it. I love it. So today's going to be a really good episode. We have the man. I'm so excited about this one. We have Chris Hetherington here. Chris, how are you today?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course, thank you. JD, do you want to explain how you know Chris?
Yeah, one of my best friends I grew up with, Vinny Fowler. Played basketball with him growing up. We've been best friends since we were 14 years old, freshman in high school. Vinny started like the first 4 years of his career with the Denver Broncos. And most of the time, like, he would be one of the guys I always trained with during the summer, like when I was still playing ball and stuff. And we would always just train at different facilities. We've been at different facilities out here in LA, back home in Michigan, wherever it may be. So like for 2 or 3 years, Benny kept telling me like, yo, this big time facility out there in Denver, in the Denver area. And he said Peyton Manning is involved and they got all this blood testing going on and all this high-tech stuff going on, just hyping the whole thing up. So I'm like, man, I definitely want to come do that because I just love Denver, period. Like, it's one of my favorite cities to just hang with. I spend a lot of time out there with Benny. So I don't remember exactly how it happened. Did Benny put us in contact like through text or something?
Arnie Kander as well, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so I finally went out there, trained out there for a week. I think we met in L.A. first.
Yep.
I think we got connected in L.A., sat down, just talked about everything. And yeah, so basically sports training brought us together.
See, the sports world is, you guys have like secret connections, right? Like there's a secret network here that I feel like we're all, especially this audience, is just learning about. Chris, do you want to just give our audience just a quick 30 seconds on you and your background?
Sure. Yeah, I grew up in Connecticut. I was a big hockey player as a kid, actually. Played all sports. Went to this little prep school in Connecticut called Avon All Farms. Played football, hockey, and baseball. And then went to Yale. I played football and baseball at Yale. I was a quarterback in college. Kind of a unique story. I never played quarterback in my life. They moved me my freshman year to quarterback.
They moved you to quarterback at Yale.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
It was actually a funny story. Back in the day in the Ivy League, you weren't eligible to play varsity football. So coming in as a freshman, you had to play freshman football. And, the Ivy League, they generally recruited, athletes were quarterbacks. So they recruited like 10 quarterbacks a year. They ended up moving 8 quarterbacks out of the positions. And it was weird. Scott Burrell, who was a basketball guy, his dad was a coach of ours on our freshman team, Sam Burrell. Saw me throw the ball one day and said, hey, dude, you ever played quarterback? I'm like, I never played quarterback in my life. So long story short, they ended up moving to quarterback. Played that for 4 years. Came out in the draft as an athlete. Ended up playing in the NFL for 11 years and been with this hedge fund for, ever since for 10 years. Have had a bunch of different roles, which I'm sure we'll get into. But, yeah, that's the story. Grew up in Connecticut.
Yeah, it's such a dream life. Like I was telling Chris beforehand, JD, that I'm like, this is what like a guy's fantasy, like Yale, they somehow mysteriously just decide you're the quarterback and the man, right? 11 years in the NFL. What teams did he play for?
I played for Indy, Carolina, St. Louis, Oakland, and San Fran.
What was your best stop?
Carolina. It was, it's a good time in my career. They used the fullback a lot. I had my own radio show, pictures around the billboards. It was a good time in my career for sure.
Wow. What team was that? Like who was on that team?
So Steve Berline, Tim Biakapatuka, Wesley Walls. We had a good team.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow. And so I think one of the really big things we'd love to talk about today is sort of that transition into business, right? Like so much of Chance Bending, this is a podcast about entrepreneuring and about bending chance, about sort of making the odds of life work for you. Tell us about that moment as you transitioned from sports to business. What was that like?
It was different. Like we were talking about earlier, I was fortunate enough to get a good education, went to Yale. I knew the average career was 3 years, so I tried to prepare myself for life after football early on in my career. I did some internships at some financial firms. I did the executive and entrepreneur programs at Harvard and Wharton my last 2 years in the league. And was really trying to figure out what the hell I want to do with the rest of my life. And so, like I told you earlier, I interviewed a lot of these big banks, and the key for me was to find, a team of like-minded individuals, a culture that I thought I can fit into, guys that work hard, play hard, and, are competitive, smart guys and girls. And, I was lucky to find that team. And I've been there ever since. Like I said, I've had a bunch of different roles. I was a trader for 3 years. We bought a professional basketball team in Tokyo, and I was the president of the basketball team for a
Get
year.
out of here.
Yeah, which was insane.
Wait, what team? JD, do you know this?
Yeah, he told me about that.
So it's called the Tokyo Apache. And the founder of our firm, Mike Lurch, is a good buddy of mine. He went to Princeton. I played football against him in college. And he was a big Laker guy. He had, courtside seats at the Lakers. And so essentially our thesis was to take over the NBA style of basketball entertainment and bring it to Tokyo. We had 7 offices in Tokyo, all these big financial relationships, for courtside seats and sponsorships and the like. So we hired Bob Hill, who was a 4-time NBA head coach. I brought over 9 former NBA cheerleaders over there and put them up for 4 months, and it was fun. We were playing in this government arena. We had courtside seats. We had Laker uniforms. The problem was it was a little challenging, the way the league was run. There wasn't a lot of parity in the league, and that we play these away teams and go in these bullet trains in these small prefectures, and there's 300-seat arenas. They're charging $10 a ticket. There's no showers for the players after the games. It was a tough model. So, but anyway, we grinded it out. I had a lot of relationships in the NBA. We were trying to be, this was when the NBA was potentially going on strike, right, in 2010, 2011. So we're like, shit, let's build this platform. We'll get Kobe Bryant's dad used to be the coach of our team before I got there. And so we'll build this platform. The NBA goes on strike. We'll get Sony or Canon to sponsor Kobe or some of these guys that come over and play. And so we were about 80% way through our season that year. And that's when that big earthquake and tsunami happened in 2011. So, which is unfortunate. A couple of the teams' infrastructure was wiped out. And as a firm, we decided to participate in the relief fund. And long story short, we ended up selling the team the next year. But it was an amazing experience. I lived in Tokyo for a year. And business-wise, it was phenomenal. I built the whole thing from scratch, essentially, and I was the CEO, the CFO, the COO, the CMO. It was business school times 100.
So it seems like you've been amazing at just creating these new opportunities for yourself. I think one of the things you said, which really resonates with me, is this idea that you needed to find a different social network of sorts after sports.
Yep.
That seems powerful to me. I know that in a lot of I do some work with people that are in rehab and so forth, and that's a really big idea, is that you need to actually bring people around that are positive and supportive, and you have to replace that social network in order to make things work.
Yeah.
Same thing in sports, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me, to be honest with you, over the last 10, 11 years is to try to have a growth mindset, to really, try to work on myself and be the best person I can be, learn as much as I can possibly learn. I meditate twice a day. I practice stoicism, just trying to learn as much as I can, have mentors that can help me learn. Like I said, I've been involved in a bunch of different businesses, which has helped me grow and understand business from different perspectives. And but yeah, once you're out of the NFL, people kind of forget about you, and so you have to create opportunities. And luckily, like I said, I went to Yale, so I had a deep network of relationships that were business people and that were willing to help. But you have to be a good person. You got to be humble about the process, which is tough. But luckily enough, I was able to do that. And I started this firm from scratch. I didn't even know what an option was. The next thing I was trading options in 60 days. So you got to work your ass off. And some of the things I learned as an athlete, this relentless work ethic and like I said earlier, being humble about the process and not coming in with this sense of entitlement and should I play in the NFL 11 years, I'm the man. No, you're starting from zero. So
was the path clear? It's unclear to me, actually. Like, what did you know this was your direction, or did it take a while to find?
It's funny because, if I didn't play football, the natural path, a lot of my buddies went to Wall Street and worked in finance, and unless they're going to become doctors. But so I always had finance in my mind. My brother is 10 years older, and he's been with Merrill Lynch since 1986. And I've always paid attention to the markets and was always interested in finance. So it wasn't absolutely clear, but at the end of the day, I was trying to figure out what the hell I wanted to do, and this is the clearest path for me. It was just trying to figure out what area of finance that I thought I fit in the most with, whether it be private wealth management, trading firms, or big hedge funds, or private equity, or venture capital, and so, like I said, the biggest thing for me, I was very, very fortunate and lucky to find this group and this group of people that I just fit in with. Man, I can be myself, and I can grow as fast as I could and try to be great, and that's what I try to do.
JD, it seems like so many athletes struggle with that transition. It seems like Chris sort of figured out from a social network perspective how to find people. How do you do that? How are you working with athletes on stuff like that?
Before I get into that, I think the immediate answer that pops out to me, and it's something that made me and Chris click right away, and I think the guy that I'm going to mention made them click right away, is my father, though, because that's what he did in terms of what Chris said. Like, my pops always tells a story. I don't think many people know this, but he was thinking like, all right, I'm going to a small school, McNeese State. Senior year was leading the country in scoring, so he was like, all right, I might have a chance to play in the NBA, but for whatever reason, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to go to law school. Kind of similar to what he said, all right, it's a 3-year lifespan in the NFL. Let me do some internships. Let me, start. So I think for an athlete that's actively doing that while trying to pursue a career, whether it's early in your career and then, like you say, later in your career, you did Wharton and Harvard Business School. Later in my pop's career, he was setting up his own automotive company to supply for GM or whoever one of the big guys were at the time. He was opening up the Joe Dumars field houses. So I think it's actively becoming an entrepreneur, even though you may be an active athlete. So that's kind of just what I preach. Like, that's an example I saw growing up. I remember those days. Like, I don't really remember early in his career, but later in his career, I remember, like, I didn't really view him as a basketball player. He was an elder statesman at that point, and, I remember him walking around in a suit, going to business meetings. So I think it's something that, you have to transition into being before your playing days are over. You can't just one day become that after the ball stops or whatever.
Yeah, that's powerful to me. I think that it's funny, we were talking about it before the show. We were saying that Joe Dumars, what jumps out isn't like the career or even the work or even the business. It's the values. It's the way he treats people. It's the relationships. And it's so clear, like, that fuels the success. And then if you combine that with actually, I think what I'm hearing is like when you do the work, things open up. Like, you have to go out and actually do stuff in order to make stuff happen, weirdly enough. Yeah. Does that make sense?
You got to work hard, right? Anything you do, you got to work hard. But, the biggest thing I noticed about Jordan and his dad was like just amazing, solid people, and as I've gotten older in life, you want to surround yourself with good people, right? And you want to meet and kind of network with good people. And once you do that, it creates opportunities, and so I was lucky enough to get introduced to Jordan and his dad, through some friends. And then, you create opportunities from there, and either you become friends with them, or you create business opportunities, or you introduce them to other people, or they introduce me to other people to create opportunities. And that's what's cool about life, right? You meet good people, you network with them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you imagined that you were going to be doing Japanese basketball.
No.
Probably.
No, never. But I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Right.
I like the experience I gained there, and you're there. It's Japanese. Like, there is no English signs. The cab drivers don't speak English. It's luckily the last time I was over there 6 months ago, ironically, the Uber app was in English, so I didn't have to try to communicate where the hell I was going. But it was great, man. And I was lucky enough to be in this firm that trusted me as an executive, as a leader, and sent me over there to do a job. And I was going to run through a wall for these guys. You
I
know?
always had a question for you. I don't know if we ever got into it in depth. Like, um, obviously, it makes a lot of sense if you hear your story. Like Yale background, always was a bright guy, always was business savvy, always connected. But like, I think it sounds a lot easier than it is to go from an NFL fullback for 11 years to being a part of a firm like that. Like you don't hear that often. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure we could count on the number of hands how many people are actually doing that. Like,
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there are guys that have done it. Obviously, there's a lot of guys. There's another Yale guy, Gary Fensick, who was a great defensive back, obviously for the Bears. He works for a private equity group called Adam Street Partners. But he got his MBA while he's still playing football. So he was very proactive. To our points earlier. But yeah, man, it's a tough transition. And look, my first 2 years trading, I was working 18 hours a day and couldn't hold on a relationship because I was, checking out the European markets at night and trying to record my trades and what I did right, what I did wrong. I mean, you got to put in the work, and I didn't, like I said earlier, I didn't have any training. You go to Goldman Sachs, you get put in a 2-year training program and you get a lot of reps. I had to create reps for myself. And so I've always done that. I went from, like I said, I went to Yale and never played quarterback in my life and then became a quarterback. And then I went from being a pretty boy quarterback to a goon fullback in the NFL. And that's a humble process too, right? You're used to having the ball in your hands every play. And now you're, glorified offensive lineman in the backfield. So, but I was lucky enough to learn from the older guys in the team and how they became great pros and how they took care of their bodies and their minds and what they were doing in the off season and treating this like a full-time job and, just like basketball, any sport.
One of the things we were talking about was how do you deal with you're used to having 80,000 people cheering for you. How do you deal, have you been able to find different highs or how does that work?
Yeah, I actually was just having a conversation. I got involved in this Future SEAL Fund, SEAL Future Fund, and basically helps guys that were that did service transition into the real world. And I was like, look, man, you can't replace that feeling. Like you said, going in, in a tunnel and 80,000 fans, screaming their heads off. Or we played Mexico City, it was 110,000 fans, but I can't get that same feeling going into a finance meeting or
with Microsoft Excel.
Yeah, exactly. But the same kind of traits apply, and that you want to be great and you want to go in and mentally and prepare for this meeting and go in and perform your best and get a deal done. And it's the same.
So do you feel like it's a competition thing, or do you feel like it's just a pure high thing?
I think the biggest thing for me that I miss is the preparation, like the game day preparation or during the week preparation. And I try to follow that same process in anything I do, whether it be, getting ready for a meeting or getting ready for an interview or, preparing for a podcast, thinking about, what I want to talk about or points I want to articulate. It's preparations is the biggest thing for me, because when you're an athlete, I was so superstitious and have all these weird quirky things you do, but at the end of the day, it's like you're preparing for battle. You're preparing for a meeting. You're preparing to win.
Weirdest superstition you can share?
Oh God, I had a lot of them. I would write shit all over my body. I would, wear the same stuff. I was the anal guy that had to have my equipment tailored perfectly. It's just. Yeah, nothing insane, but like the old look good, feel good, play good type thing,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I can totally understand this feeling of success on every level, and then just having life and things change and plans change, and then dealing with it. It's a big deal. Tell us more about your work today. Like, what are you doing in 2018, 2019 here?
Yeah, so like Benny mentioned, my firm has made a few investments in some companies. So our main business is we've gone from a multi-strategy hedge fund. We kind of evolved into more of a boutique investment bank. So we're the number one financers of small cap companies and biotech companies in Tokyo and Asia. We've acquired some companies along the way if we have a deep relationship or we see we can add a lot of value through our resources, et cetera. So we made a major investment in a group called Resilience Code in Denver in February of 17. So I became the CEO. I was the CEO for about 18 months, really kind of turn around the business, kind of restructure the whole business, hired a bunch of people, really great company. It was more of a data-driven, evidence-based, medical and performance center. It was started by Dr. Chad Presmack, who's the team neurosurgeon of the Broncos. He's the chief neurosurgeon at a clinic out in Denver. And then the other guy was Dr. Dustin Navin, who runs the Olympic Training Center. So really bright guys. It was like it was heaven for me. I had that. I love working out. I love eating right and take care of my body and kind of biohacking any chance I can. So it was an amazing experience. But at the end of the day, it was tough work. I was over there for 18 months. Without my family. I was there 5 days a week, on a plane every week, twice a week. And it was a grind, but I loved doing it. It was a great experience. I've transitioned out of the CEO role. I'm an officer on the board, still involved. Now I'm back with the hedge fund, doing some structured finance deals. I'm looking at a couple other companies that we've invested in to see if I can help, restructure and clean those businesses up a little bit and just wherever I can add value.
Are you still working with athletes in any sense or direction?
Not specifically. I have some ventures with some guys that I was teammates with, and like I said, I try to help wherever I can. My agent puts me on the phone with some guys every year that are looking for some guidance or some help or some advice. I love doing that. It's funny getting involved in that basketball kind of got me fired up about sports again.
Yeah, sure.
I'd played football for 27 years, and in the NFL it's very political, right? So I was always grinding every year on 1-2 year deals, and like I said, I was lucky enough to play for 11 years. But at the end of my career, I was like, look, I kind of want to use my brain other ways. I'm a little tired of the political atmosphere, and then I got into the real world and had this opportunity back in sports again in basketball, and it was a really rewarding experience for me in that to have an impact in these kids' lives and careers in a very positive way, right? Like taking all the experience of the good and the bad from the teams I played for, whether it be ownership groups or GMs or coaches, and try to reflect on that and really try to provide a great culture where these kids can thrive, right? Mm-hmm. And these kids can really, prepare for not only their careers, but get on a better path for life after basketball was fun for me.
One of the big trends here with chance betting is this idea that athletes are becoming real business people, right? And I mean, they've always been business people, but what I mean is that they're taking control of their business lives. They're starting to own businesses. Are you seeing this trend emerge? Are you talking to other athletes about this? How anything going on there?
Absolutely. I think the leagues are getting better. I think they're, providing education for these guys, and whether it be financial literacy seminars or providing opportunities to network with business people, et cetera. But my kids go to school with Baron Davis's kids, and he's a pretty successful entrepreneur. I know a lot of football guys that are involved.
Is that Crossroads? What is that?
Crossroads.
That's
No,
Crossroads.
my kid goes to Little Dolphins, is a little preschool in Santa Monica.
Got it.
Baron did go to
Crossroads track.
Yeah.
Crossroads track. Yeah.
But yeah, man, I see a lot of I'm happy to see a lot of athletes that are doing well in business. That look at Kobe Bryant, right? He surrounds himself with really smart people and gets involved in some good ventures. But again, the guy puts in the work and he grinds, and look at his basketball career. It's kind of using that same work ethic and preparation and diligence to get involved in business. And so it's been cool watching these guys.
Yeah,